Hare Krishna everyone. A very good evening for all of you. So last week we covered till verse number 28. So last about 12, 13 verses, they're all describing descriptions of Lord Krishna, of the soul. What are the characteristics of the soul that was described. And all of this argumentation by Krishna is primarily to make Arjuna understand. So one of the argument of Arjuna was he was showing compassion for the body. The first argument, why he doesn't want to fight, because he doesn't want to kill his own grandfather, own relatives, own brother, mother, own uncle. He doesn't want to kill them. So he was basically showing compassion to the body. Krishna countered that by saying that actually you are not this body, you are actually a spirit soul. So there is nothing to really lament in this inevitable duty of you. In performing your duty, you should not really consider on the bodily platform. So he was giving various characteristics of the soul, how soul is eternal, and how it is immutable, how it is indivisible, it cannot be, how it passes from one body to another body as part of recycling. Ultimately, he says, one who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in this unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. You should, as Kshatriya, what you should do? Kshatriya means, Sha means harm. Kshatriya means one who protects, one who gives protection from harm. So, as Kshatriya, you should perform. As a Kshatriya, you should perform your duty of fight and not avoid your discharge of your duty. Instead, what Arjuna was doing, he was lamenting the death of his relatives. So, Krishna said, that's not how you should see things. So after that, then finally, he gave a generic statement. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, in terms of their body, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation? There is no real need for any lamentation. Arjuna, this body is going to anyway end. It's not going to be eternal. It's, we try to eternalize our body. That's where the problem comes. We want to live in this body forever. And so we go through a lot of suffering because we are spirit. And so naturally we desire to stay forever. That is the nature of the soul. And the body is quite an incompatible companion for the soul. Body has a very short lifespan in this world, whether human or any other animal. So that incompatibility brings anxiety for those especially who are blind to this understanding of the soul and body, because they can't really see what's happening, and so they go through lamentation. So Krishna gave that. So this is countering Arjuna's first argument, which is, I don't want to fight because these are all my relatives and I don't want to see them die. Krishna gave the argument by saying, actually you are not this body, you are soul. They are not their body, they are soul. And so in this, the body is going to end anyway. And as a matter of duty, you have to perform, as a Kshatriya, you have to perform your duty, which is to fight and protect dharma. And so you should not avoid that. So with that said, we'll move on to the today's section. So Arjuna's second argument is, I don't want to fight because I don't see any enjoyment in this. How will I kill my relatives and at the cost of their lives will I ever enjoy the kingdom that I achieved through that fight? That argument, we call it as loss of enjoyment. Who am I fighting for? Ultimately, if my relatives are not there, I'm going to win this war, and will I be really happy? No, I'm not happy. I'm not going to be happy. So Krishna, in the next almost nine verses, he would answer why that kind of a consideration is incorrect. Ascharyavat pasyati kaschidenam, ascharyavat vadati tadaiva chanyat, ascharyavat chainam anya srunoti, srutvapi enam vedana chaiva kaschet. Some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing. Ascharya vat paschati. Paschati means see. So some people look on the soul as amazing. Some vadati tataiva chanya. Ascharya vat vadati means they describe him as amazing. And ascharya vat chainam anya shrunoti. Shrunoti means hearing. Some hear of him as amazing, while others, even though after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. So this is the basically how various people see the soul. For example, the first one is some look on the soul as amazing because they hear about the soul's nature. The soul, which is minute in nature, that is the same soul in the body of an ant or in the body of a gigantic animal like elephant. The same soul moves both the bodies. Or even, not even ant. In a small cross section of area, you can fit millions of microbes. So they would see how amazing is the soul. That the same soul which can move, which moves the microbe, also moves a gigantic animal. Some describe him as amazing. After hearing about soul, some describe how amazing is the soul. How the soul is eternal, how the soul lasts beyond this lifetime. So they describe in many great epithets. And some hear of him as amazing. Means the soul is so amazing. Some hear of him as amazing. Because, like all of us, when we learn about soul for the first time, it's so amazing. Because many of the times we get bogged down by bodily conception of life. Oh, I'm fat, I will always remain fat. Because we identify with the body, we go through a lot of suffering. I remember one person when in one of my classes, he was little obese. When he heard about the soul and he understood that he is soul, not this body, he would not identify with this obese body anymore. So it kind of gave him a relief. The suffering that we go through because of our body does not matter much, because this entire body is just like a splash. It's not our real identity. We may be very rich or very poor, doesn't matter. This body is a temporary instrument. So it's amazing. A lot of bodily conceptions would wither away when we hear about the soul's amazing nature. Because ultimately that's not the most important thing. This body is a temporary thing. When we understand and start leading our life with that understanding, many of our anxieties will go away, because we try to stay on the platform of body many things become too much bothersome. Your current health problems or financial problems or family problems, all of these become a big thing when we uh, when we are on the bodily platform, when we identify too much with our body. But when we reduce that identification with the body, understand we are spirit soul, and this journey of life is a short splash, and the purpose of life is not to improvise your material happiness in this world. Rather, you should focus on your core spiritual nature. When we understand that, that is so relieving. Your COVID is there, it's very troublesome for the world. Many people are going through depression, I heard. One is, and their immunity is going down and they're becoming more vulnerable. But we understand this world is designed in like this. One who understands Bhagavad Gita, they understand very well. This world is meant to give us suffering, and this body is a temporary arrangement, and it will go through a lot of uh, experiences that are not uh, very nice to it. So when we understand and stay at the platform of the soul, many of these problems will dwindle away. And while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. Some people hear about the soul, or but they can't really understand. One story that I remember is when Yudhishthir Maharaj, along with Pandavas, once they were in Vanvas. At the time, so I don't want to tell the full story, but what happens is all the brothers would go to fetch some water from a river nearby, and in the process, they all die. Actually, they had to answer a yaksha before they take the water, but they refuse to answer. And so almost four of them die. Arjuna, Bhima, Nakula, and Sahadeva, they all die. And finally, Yudhishthir goes there. And when he was about to pick water, Yaksha comes again and says, you will face the same fate as your brothers if you don't answer my questions. And then he would ask a question: what is the most amazing thing in this world? Ascharya, most amazing thing in this world. And Yudhishthira Maharaj says, everyone who is born in this world will eventually die. And a man or a woman, they see everyone around them die actually, but they think they are exclusion to the rule, meaning they think that they are not going to die. Even though they see that everybody around them die, but they think that they are not going to die. That is the most fascinating, most amazing thing about this world. And Yaksha, actually, that Yaksha is none other than his own, the father, you can say stepfather, Dharmaraj. That Yaksha turns into Dharma, and actually he accepts that is the right answer, and he revives the life of all the four brothers. So basically, some people hear about him, but they don't really understand. But some people really understand. The other extreme is some people really understand it. Who understand that? Those whose consciousness is at a very advanced stage. What do I mean by that? So consciousness stays at various levels. The first is Jagriti. The Jagriti is where we are all, most of us, we are aware of, we are very much conscious of the external things to us, things external to us, right? Jagriti means being active and observe, consciousness that is focused on this world. And then Swapna is the deep sleep. No, swapna is sleep, where one gets, dreams. So that is consciousness staying at the swapna stage, where physical body is all inactive. Consciousness is, we are not conscious of the external body, but our consciousness is um, active at the level of the subtle body. So your consciousness, when it is active at the physical body, that is Jagriti. Means you are seeing, hearing, touching, feeling. Externally, you're interacting. So that is Jagriti. And when your consciousness is just spread across your subtle body, you are as if you are actually doing things. In your swapna, you could be in India talking to your mother, father, eating nice food made by your mother, whatever, right? So that is swapna. It's not externally true, but it is true at the level of subtle body. It is true. Just like you directly talk to your parents, that is true at physical level. Similarly, in the swapna stage, when somebody is in a dream, that is actually true at the subtle body level. And then Shushupti is um, deep slumber, where you basically lost all consciousness, not even at the subtle body. Um, Deep ingrained, your consciousness is just around the soul. That's it. There is no dream, no physical activity, no external activity. And so your consciousness is completely inward, at the soul level, deep sleep. And then finally, Turya or Samadhi, fourth level of state. This is the soul focused on the super soul, inward. That is inward journey, you can say. When the jiva becomes very much aware of his soul and he redirects his consciousness towards the super soul. Suppose it's like a light, you switched on light right now outward. You are seeing the world outside. Now when the torch is completely turned inward to the super soul, to God, and you connect with him in yoga, so that is called Samadhi or Turya. Turya is the highest consciousness. Through the practice of yoga, one ultimately can achieve that state of consciousness. So those souls at that level, actually, they can really see that the soul is really amazing. They can, because they live at the level of consciousness. They don't live at the level of body or at swapna or subtle body. They live truly at the level of the soul. So for them, they can really experience the spiritual bliss. So that is, again, this one. Some look on the soul as amazing, right? So these are basically levels of people, different levels of consciousnesses make one experience this world differently. Those at the spiritual level, they see everything auspicious, everything is perfectly done uh, according to God's plan. Nothing is too surprising or too contradicting their idea of what it should be. Everything is in proper harmonious way. That is the one who is very advanced. So any questions on this or the previous slokas? If you have, we can discuss before we move forward. You can unmute yourself and ask any questions if you have. We have good strength today. If everything is clear, we'll move. I hope you are all able to hear me.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you. So there is a nice description of this verse. You can all read at home. So this one paragraph I want to read. The easiest process for understanding the subject matter of the self, however, is to accept the statements of Bhagavad Gita spoken by the greatest authority, Lord Krishna, without being deviated by other theories. So the best understanding of the soul is already there in Bhagavad Gita. We don't need to look out for any other knowledge outside. But it also requires a great deal of penance and sacrifice, either in this life or in the previous ones, before one is able to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna can, however, be known as such by the causeless mercy of the pure devotees and by no other way. This is a very interesting concept. It is very easy to accept Parabrahman as the highest. Parabrahman means Brahmajyoti. Much more logic. Many people feel more logical to accept that as the highest truth. But to accept Krishna, who is a transcendental person, he is a person, but he is transcendental. He is not like one of us. That requires a lot of, as Prabhupada says, it requires a great deal of penance and sacrifice, either in this life or in the previous one. Actually, it is mentioned, you will read in the future chapters. If you are directly accepting Krishna's instruction, like by attending this class, it means that you have already done all the sacrifices, penances in your previous life. It's not, I'm not just making up to encourage you. You're going to read these verses in the future chapters. It's very difficult to accept an authority like Krishna. It's much easier to accept Brahman as the highest spiritual reality. Much more difficult to accept a personality like Krishna as the highest truth. So that's what is mentioned here. So I will just I'll give you the verse. 6th chapter, 47th. So in 6th chapter, Krishna describes all the yogis possible. The Dhyana Yoga, Karma Yoga, and he describes into two, and finally gives this conclusion about this yoga chapter. What does he say? Yoginam api sarvesham madgatenantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam sameyukta tamo mataha. And of all the yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. You see, Krishna clearly tells the position of a bhakti yogi. This is basically, he talked about all the yogis, and he finally talks about one who actually serves Krishna himself. He is the highest of all. So many people think that bhakti is not the greatest path. There are all these other paths, yoga and pranayama, this Ashtanga yoga. But according to the highest authority, which is Lord Krishna, accepted by all the great acharyas, take Ramanujacharya, Nimbarkacharya, Vishnu Swami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, take any great saints of the past, Tukaram, whoever it is, Mirabai, right? All these great saintly people accepted Lord Krishna as the supreme authority. And the same thing was informed by Krishna himself directly in Bhagavad Gita. Even for me, it took a while to, even after started reading Gita, and I was, at the time I was actually I was unmarried, I was in a job. I just got job. I just passed out of IIT and I got a job in Bangalore. I was working there. And then I stayed with my spiritual friends. It took me a while to accept a personality as God. A personality as God. It took me a while, but once I accepted, the path became much easier, and my relation started deepening and deepening, and over a time it became much more clearer. 30th verse. Dehi nityam avadhyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam sochitumarhasi. O descendant of Bharata, Arjuna, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any living being. Again, the same principle. One he who dwells in the body. What is that person who dwells in the body? The soul, right? The soul dwells in the body. That is the real person. The body is not the real person. He who dwells in the person can never be slain. You are thinking you are going to slain, but what you are going to slain is only the body, not the person in the body. Therefore, you need not grieve for any living being. You all heard about Aristotle, right? Aristotle was a great philosopher in the West. Not Aristotle, Socrates. You all heard about Socrates, right? Anybody he meets, especially those at the time in the society, the great learned people who are very much educated, they are very proud of themselves. And Socrates would just go, his approach is exactly like Sankhya Yoga. That's what he was doing actually. He doesn't term it that way, but Sankhya Yoga is basically trying to find the truth by observing the world. How does it work? You go question in depth. For example, you question, who are you? You say, I'm this body, I have this, I'm father, mother, whatever you want to say physically, right? But that's not your eternal identity. You were not that when you were born. It has changed, evolved over time. And after you leave the body, you're not this body anymore. So that's not your real identity. Your identity means that's that truly identifies you, that does not change in you, right? For example, you as a person identify yourself as a child, the same person you identify as an elderly man now or a woman, the same person remains, right? The witness of this body remains the same. That is who you are. So he would question everybody, who are you? What is the purpose of life? Nobody comes up with any good answers. And he would trash them, that they're not scholars, they're just fools. They're going in the name of scholars, but they're not, actually, they don't even know their identity. And it came to a point where people are so fed up with him, they wanted to kill him. So they complained to the aristocratic kings there, and the king would order him to kill this guy. He's just becoming a nuisance to the society. He would question everybody, make everybody think they're low and small, and he's as if his intention is not to prod them, but it turned out to be that way for people. That's how they took him. And ultimately he was um, he was sentenced to death, and he was given a poison to drink and die. At the time, they would ask, what is your last desire? I said, what's your last statement? He said, yeah, you're thinking you are going to kill me, but you're not going to kill me. It means that he understands that he is not this body. So just by Sankhya Yoga, which is analyzing the material nature and material elements within you as well as the nature around, one can come to a conclusion that actually they are not this body. So Socrates, actually, he is not really worried about death, because he understands that he is not this body, and he would not complain to drink the poison also. He would just drink and drive. So Krishna is giving the same principle here to Arjuna again. One who dwells in the body can never be slain, therefore you need not grieve for any living being. Yeah, so Lord Krishna establishes the soul is immortal and the body is temporary. Therefore, Arjuna, as a Kshatriya, he should not abandon his duty out of fear that his grandfather and teacher Bhishma and Drona would die in the battle. On the authority of Sri Krishna, one has to believe that there is a soul different from the material body, not that there is no such thing as soul, or that living symptoms develop at a certain stage of material maturity resulting from the interaction of chemicals. That's what many modern scientists say. Life starts with interaction of chemicals. Then our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada would say, okay, I give you all the chemicals, you go make a life out of it. Okay, if not human being, at least make an ant or a mosquito. Nobody can bring life out of matter. That is very clear, and none of the people could do it. Therefore, though the soul is immortal, violence is not encouraged. But at the same time, at the time of war, it is not discouraged when there is actual need for it. Now, Krishna, everybody came to fight. At this time, this is not the time to go back, like Arjuna was trying to do here. That need must be justified in terms of sanction of the Lord and not capriciously, just like Arjuna is trying to go away from capriciously. That's not sanctioned by Lord. 31st verse. Swadharmam api chavekshya navikampitum dharmyadhi yuddhachrino anyat kshatriyasya navidyate. Considering your specific duty as a kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles, and so there is no need for hesitation. Arjuna is a kshatriya, and so as a kshatriya, his duty is to administer the society, whether it is village or entire state or country, it doesn't matter. But as a kshatriya, I mean, the elder brother used to rule the country generally, but all the younger brothers would rule some specific area of the country. That's how the kshatriyas would rule. But here in this case, what happened? Duryodhana said, I would not give even a small trace of land to you, not even a street. Forget about a village. Yeah, nothing would I give you. So now it became inevitable that to fight. You should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles. And so there is no need for hesitation. So Arjuna was hesitating to fight. So Krishna says, this is your duty, Baba. How can you say I don't want to fight? Yeah. Here is the definition of Kshatriya. Out of the 4 orders of social administration, the second order for the matter of good administration is called Kshatriya. Kshat means hurt. One who gives protection from harm is called Kshatriya. Trayate, to give protection. The Kshatriyas are trained for killing in the forest. It is legitimate for Kshatriyas to go and fight kill animals in the forest. Why they're allowed? Because in the previous ages, that was kind of a training for them, so that they can, when the need arises, they would use that skill in really protecting the society. A Kshatriya would go in the forest and challenge a tiger face to face and fight with the tiger with his sword. When the tiger was killed, it would be offered the royal order of cremation It's not that the Kshatriya would kill and come back. It is honored because he was killed in that fight. So this system has been allowed even up to the present day by the Kshatriya kings of Jaipur. Until very recently, until 18th century, 19th century, it was there. The Kshatriyas are especially trained for challenging and killing because religious violence is sometimes a necessary factor. Violence is also necessary, just like sometimes we allow surgery on our body, right? It is a kind of violence on the body. We cut open the body, maybe bring the baby out, or cut open some part that got damaged. That is part of curing the overall body, for the overall goodness of the body. So similarly, for the overall goodness of the society, sometimes killing is allowed. Therefore, Kshatriyas are never meant for accepting directly orders of sannyasa or renunciation. So Kshatriya should not give up his duty, renunciation. Yeah, I can read further on this. So this paragraph is interesting. There are two kinds of swadharmas as specific duties. As long as one is not liberated, one has to perform the duties of his particular body in accordance with religious principles in order to achieve liberation. When one is liberated, one's swadharma, specific duty, becomes spiritual and is not in the materially bodily concept. So as I mentioned before, there are two kinds of swadharma. Uh, you have a body, so you have to perform dharma according to your body, and you have a soul, so you also have spiritual duties. You have bodily duties, you have spiritual duties. In the bodily conception of life, there are specific duties for the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra, and those are unavoidable. You have to perform. Swadharma is ordained by Lord, and this will be clarified in the fourth chapter. In the bodily plane, Swadharma is called Varna Ashrama Dharma. Varnas and Ashramas. The four Varnas and four Ashramas. Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasi, four Ashramas. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra, four Varnas. This is basically according to one's nature and one's action. Society was divided according to Varnashrama Dharma. By following one's own Varnashrama Dharma, performing duties of a Kshatriya as a Kshatriya, performing duties as a Brahmana. So one actually, it becomes a stepping stone for spiritual understanding. Human civilization begins from the stage of Varnashrama, or specific duties in terms of the modes of nature of the body obtained. Discharging one's specific duty in any field of action in accordance with the orders of higher authorities serves to elevate one to higher status of life. So we have to perform our duty according to the nature we are in. Any questions? Okay, next verse then. Jadrichaya chopapannam swargadvaram apavritam sukhina kshatriya pardha labhante yuddhamidrisham. O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. So for a Kshatriya, when he fights in a religious war, like in Kurukshetra, whether you are on the Pandava side or the Kaurava side, doesn't matter. When you get killed out of performance of your duty, you get elevated to heavenly planet, higher planets. It doesn't mean that, it's clearly mentioned to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought. Means one should not go after opportunities to fight. Meaning, even in the case of Pandavas and Kauravas, Pandavas tried every single means to avoid the war. They're ready to come in peaceful terms with Kauravas, if possible, in any way. They just want to rule a small village. Doesn't matter. They are in full cooperation, ready for all sacrifices. Even the last person to try to bring peace between the two parties is Sri Krishna himself. Even Lord Krishna's mission failed. Can you believe it? Even God's mission failed. Very surprising thing. Because God doesn't interfere in the free will of the jiva. When Duryodhana wants to go on fight, Lord doesn't interfere. Many people ask, if God is there within the heart, why can't he stop a serial killer from killing? So the point is that every jiva has free will. Free will means you have an opportunity to exercise your will as you wish. Free will. And God never interferes with your free will. You haven't, even though, if he interferes, it's all forceful. We're not anymore having an independent existence. Even though we're part and parcel of God in the overall sense, we're all tiny individual souls. When you say individual, you do have your free will individually. You exist. You have a choice to love God or not love. So that's where even God doesn't force you to love. Because if there is force, then that is not called love. If I force my wife to always love me, it's not force. It's not love anymore. It's completely force. So when she chooses to love me or I choose to love her, that becomes true love. Similarly, God waits patiently for us to turn to him. He does not force us to turn to him. And as long as you want to stay independent, turn your face away from God and stay in this material world forever, yes, he would let you enjoy as much as you want in this world, and ultimately get frustrated and go back, ultimately realize, yes, this is not the place to enjoy. I would go back to God. That's where I come from and that's where I belong. Until you realize, just like I always give the example of a stubborn child. The father would say, don't play with knife. Child says, no daddy, I want to play with knife. I love playing with knife. And he would cut something, this thing, that thing. And ultimately he would cut his finger. Then he would realize, oh God, what my dad said was right. And dad would allow he would observe him. He would be always on the side, worried to protect him. But how much can he stop him? He cannot stop him, right? So similarly, the jivas in this world are trying to enjoy as much as they can in this temporary body. You all have this temporary body, but it gets fever, it gets disease, it goes through birth, death. It goes through all kinds of nonsense in this world. Studies, passes stool every single day. You have to clean your body every single day. It's a huge mess to maintain every single day. But still, we try to enjoy in this world as much as we can. But ultimately, as we come to our senses, in the sense that actually there is a higher purpose to this life, and understand about the soul, understand about the reality of God, and pursue the path of spirituality, then we realize actually this is not the place to stay forever. This is a temporary place. So anyway, so the concept we got a little bit deviated. Of course, why is Krishna talking about heavenly planets? This is not what all of us aspire for. We don't want to go to heaven. That's not what our goal is. We want to realize ourselves and go ultimately to the highest reality, not any place in this world, in this creation, which is heavenly planets are within this creation. But this is speaking at level of karma kanda. So Krishna would give answers at various levels because people exist at different consciousness, and he would answer at different levels to cater to all of that. So opening for them the doors of heavenly planets. So if you perform your duty as a kshatriya and fight, either you win or lose, doesn't matter. If you die, you actually go back to heavenly planets. If you win, you rule the country. So either way, it's a win-win situation. It's not as Arjuna was thinking, it was a lose-lose situation. I go to forest, giving up the fight. I lose the opportunity to rule, and also I lose the opportunity to go to heavenly planets. So Arjuna was talking of a lose-lose situation, and Krishna is talking actually about a win-win situation. Yeah, so in Parasar Smriti, religious quotes made by Parasar, the great sage and father of Vyasadeva, says the Kshatriya's duty is to protect the citizens from all kinds of difficulty, and for that reason he has to apply violence in suitable cases for law and order. Therefore, he has to conquer the soldiers of inimical kings, and thus, with religious principles, he should rule over the world. Considering all aspects, Arjuna has no reason to refrain from fighting. If he should conquer his enemies, he would enjoy the kingdom, and if he should die in the battle, he would be elevated into the heavenly planets, whose doors were wide open to him. Fighting would be for his benefit in either case, win-win. अतचेत्त्वम् इमं धर्म्यं संग्रामं न करिष्यसि तथा स्वधर्मं कीर्तिं च हित्वा पापम् अवाप्स्यसि. If, however, you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. This is actually, if Krishna is saying, my dear friend Arjuna, you think you are you become a great compassionate person and you want to give up this religious duty of fighting and go to forest. But in the process of giving up your duty, what happens is you incur sin because you avoided your duty and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. Everybody is thinking you are the greatest fighter right now in this world. But now they don't look at your motivation. Oh, your motivation is that, oh, I don't want to fight my teacher, my grandfather. They don't look at your motivation. They look at your action of running away from the battlefield. People don't talk about your great compassionate nature after you leave the battle. They all think, oh, this guy ran away from the battle. This guy was in fear of his life. And they would disrepute you. You are the greatest fighter, O Arjuna. They would disrepute you. They would consider you as a coward, one who ran away from the fight. They only look at your actions. They don't look at your motivations. Arjuna was a famous fighter and he attained fame by fighting many great demigods, including even Lord Shiva. After fighting and defeating Lord Shiva in the dress of a hunter, Arjuna pleased the Lord and received as a reward a weapon called Pashupatastra. We all heard about that story. Arjuna gets, uh, Arjuna fights Lord Shiva, who was in the dress of a hunter. And Lord Shiva was so pleased with the fighting skills of Arjuna that he would turn and show his real form as Lord Shiva and actually award him Pashupatastra, which he would use later on in the Kurukshetra war. Everyone knew that he was a great warrior. Even Dronacharya gave him the benediction and awarded him a special weapon that he could kill even his teacher. So he was credited with so many military certificates. Even his adopted father Indra, uh, I think, his bow and arrows. So he abandoned the battle. Not only would he neglect his specific duty as a Kshatriya, but he would lose all his fame and good name and thus prepare his royal road to hell. In other words, he would go to hell by not fighting and withdrawing from battle. He should perform he would lose name, fame, first thing. He would incur sin because he is giving up his duty. So it is actually not fighting, is actually lose for Arjuna. Akirtim chapi bhutani katayishanti te vyayam sambhavitasya chakirtir maranad atirichyate. People will always speak of your infamy, and for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. For a respectable person like you, Arjuna, just by speaking in a dishonorably way, that is worse than death for you. Huh? Like, if somebody has done a wrong action, we know how bad reputation spreads. In terms of gossip and all, everybody talks about badly about that person. If somebody does some corruption, or we hear about all these politicians in India or elsewhere, right? They're so disreputed and dishonor is spread in no time. It's almost it's so depressing to go through such an experience. All these great politicians, great CEOs who got disrepute. Everybody, paparazzi, all the society talks about it. There will be debates in the TV. All these things happen, and Krishna is saying nobody would look at your motivation, brother. Everybody looks at your actions. Ideally, this is called attributional error. Attributional error means um, suppose I like to um, if somebody is eating more, for example, we are all in temple, we are all we all attend in ISKCON temples, we all have Sunday feast. On Sunday evenings we all come and attend dinner together and eat, right? If somebody is eating food a lot more than generally what generally eats, then we may think, oh, why is he eating so much, right? On the other hand, if you are eating, you think, you would understand, yes, I'm hungry today, so I'm eating more. But we don't consider about others like that. We think that we look at only actions and uh, make perceptions. Actions lead to perceptions, right? In this world, nobody looks at the motivations behind why. um, you know my friend talks about a good example. One time he just gave a class, and it's again about eating prasadam in the temple. So he sat down in the temple, he came a little late, and almost the sweet was over. So there was dessert, there was rice and sambar and sabji, and then there is a nice sweet rice that is also served for all the visitors. The sweet rice was over at the time. Um, so another senior, another senior devotee was sitting nearby. So my friend saw him, um, And then he said he got his plate and he was about to start eating. And then my friend saw the other devotee, uh, other friend who is sitting opposite to him. He was, he was calling out for sweet. He already ate one sweet. Now he is asking for another sweet. And somebody comes and tells, no sweet. And he would turn around in the back and ask another person, oh, do you have sweet? Do you have sweet? And finally, another person who was serving, actually, he made a plate for himself before, because towards the end, all the items get over. Generally, those who serve, they make a plate on the side so that they can take. In the worst case, if they don't have, they can just eat that plate. So he actually brought from his own plate the person who is serving, and gave this person who was sitting opposite to my friend. And in the process, my friend was thinking, oh, he already ate one cup. Why is he asking for another cup? He should understand that the sweet is over, and just be happy with what he has and eat it and go away. This is gluttonous, means he's just after taste buds. That's what he just mentally thought like that. He didn't comment or he didn't say anything to him, but he mentally felt like that, because based on actions we look at the intentions of the people, perceptions of the people. And so so the sweet comes to that person, and he would immediately tell him, oh, it's not for me, see, my friend came, it is for him, he doesn't have sweet. So actually that person is so sensitive that this person came late and he got other things but he doesn't have sweet. He became very sensitive, concerned, and he was looking, on behalf of him. He was asking for sweet and get the sweet and actually offer him. So that was his intention. He was going out of his own way to actually please the other person, my friend. So my friend felt very, very guilty after that experience, because he saw his actions, he didn't know about his motivations, right? So many times in life we also do this attributional error, right? Just like we see some actions of the people and come to some conclusions about why they did what they did. So that's a great lesson we should be careful about. Huh? Yeah, and we'll I think these two verses are on the same line. Let me quickly read. Bhayadranad uparatam mamasyante tvam maharata yesham cha tvam bahu mato bhutva yashyasi lagatam. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. Is so insulting to Arjuna, because everybody looks at actions and they don't look at your motivation. Long time gone from now, don't think Arjuna will be considered a great warrior. In the future, people think, oh, Arjuna, after coming to the battlefield, he ran away out of fear of life. Do not think the great generals like, especially Duryodhana, the enemies, Karna and other Kandavas will think that you have left the battlefield out of compassion for your brothers and grandfathers. They will think that you have left out of fear for your life, and thus your high esteem of your personality will go to hell. Avachyo vaddamscha bahum vadishanti tavahita nindanam nindantastava samar samarthyam tato dukkha taram nukim. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful for you? See, everybody will speak ill words about you. Don't think you have done a great sacrifice. Krishna would just smash all his illusions. Yeah, and then finally, this hato va prapasyasi swargam chitva va bhokshasi mahim tasmad uttista kaunteya yuddhaya krita nischaya. O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up with determination and fight. Don't give up your duty. Perform your duty. That is the purpose of life. You have to perform your duty. You should not give up your duty. Get up and fight with determination. So we can end the class here. If you have questions, we can discuss. Can you all open up your video, if you don't mind? We don't interact personally. We are it's going on a little bit impersonal for so long. You can all open up your video and audio if possible. Class is over. If you have questions, we can discuss.
Hi, Prabhu. This is Ganesh. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I actually had a question as we were talking today. So one of the things you mentioned was that like Arjuna is actually a Kshatriya, so he has his duty, and his duty is to fight, and if he wins, he gets the land, and if he dies, he goes to he goes to heaven, right? So that's his duty, and so as I was listening to it, right, I was wondering, what is my duty, right? Because in my role, I have, we have different roles. We have roles at work, roles as a son, as a father, as a husband, and roles in the community. And sometimes those roles always don't have, a very synchronous goals, right? They kind of conflict with each other sometimes. So in those situations, how do we determine, what is our right duty and what is the right thing to do?
Can you give me an example, Ganesh Prabhu?
So for instance, let's say that let's say my work requires me to do something that kind of takes me away from my family. That's it. Right? So let's say my work requires me to travel, but the duty of my work is to travel. But maybe this is not the best example. But let's say my work requires me to travel, but also being a father, my duty is I need to be able to be with my son and my wife and be a good husband and spend time with them, right? So of course, I can try to find a job where I can meet both of those goals, but not all of the times we are able to easily resolve those type of scenarios, right? So, so how would we deal with those type of things, and how do we find of course, the best scenario would be we find something that we are able to match both those goals, right? But sometimes we're not able to. We have to pick one, and how would we make this possible?
That's a very good question. Yeah, so we have responsibilities. Ganesh Prabhu's question is, we all have responsibilities to our family, to our parents, to our office. So sometimes these duties conflict with each other. Like for example, you cannot be ideal father at the same time, ideal employee. So how do we balance out, right? Yeah. So like you said, ultimately our ultimate goal is to do justice to both by trying to get a job that requires less travel, but in the meantime we continue to perform in our best capacity. But we should have a long-term goal whereby we can do maximum justice. Right now it may not be possible, but see what can be done within our capacity. Long-term goal is to completely have, you know, um, but you know, if not, um, you know, suppose you are traveling. I'm just taking this example only, extending this, and then uh, as a father, you should be connecting with your family on a daily basis when you are even on travel with your parents on a regular basis. Still, you you are available for them in terms of they look up to you for certain things, and it should be that you are still accessible to them on a regular basis until you settle things well in such a way that you are able to serve by being close to them all the time. But we continue to do in our best capacity as much as possible. Yeah, so sometimes there will be conflicts, and we try to keep a long-term goal where we try to satisfy in ideal way. Until then, we will try to do in the way that is best possible at the current given the current circumstances. Yeah.
Also, I think along the same line, right? The common scenario is, we're kind of here in the US, and then your parents back over in India,
Mm,
and they're sick or they're getting old, things like that, right? Where
that's true. Yeah.
you can't. Okay, okay, thank you.
Even I'm going through the challenge now. My my mother got COVID, and she was hospitalized, and my sisters are taking care. My sister and brother-in-law, they are taking care. I was a little guilty, that I'm not there at the time of need. I'm the only son. I'm here. I'm literally guilty, but I'm doing what I can at best through prayers on a regular basis. Every day I'm praying for them, and in terms of Lakshmi, I'm sending whatever, and I'm calling them every morning, evening, just to comfort in the capacity I can right now. But in the long term, I have some plans, either bring them here or I go there. I'm working on that in the long term. I have
Okay,
so do what can be done in your capacity at the moment. uh, be mindful that we as we still have that responsibility to take care of them. Try to comfort in your best capacity in the way possible, that you are there for them. Yeah.
okay, thank you, bro.
Prabhuji, on the same point, some people give up the Grihastha Dharma,
Mm.
family responsibilities, and will become like a sannyasas.
Yeah.
Right?
Hmm.
So, how do you understand that? Maybe they'll give up the Grihastha Dharma
Mm.
and try to understand God,
Mm.
or don't know, they might be doing something else.
One,
So, how do you understand that?
how do you understand? Yes. So those people, even I was one of the person who was
I
trying to.
think in the day, same thing. I think I read in the Bhagavad Gita on this. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left his family
Correct. Yeah.
or someone, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is it not like a good thing, like leaving the Grihastha Dharma, leaving family,
Not
and
not
try to understand?
not ideal for most of us. We have to, because if you have a family and children, you have to take care of them until they're completely settled. We are bound in duty to take care of them. That is our primary duty. And while doing your duty, you learn to surrender to God. Ultimately, actually, in Kali Yuga, sannyas is not recommended. In Kali Yuga, you your sannyasi should be at the heart, meaning you are detached from enjoying in this world while serving the world, right? So, but first answering your question, the first question is a person allowed to take sannyas order before he takes care of his parents, for example, right? Now a person who is giving up his duty as a householder, or not before accepting, he accepted brahmachari and then he becomes a sannyasi, for example, right? He's not taking care of his parents directly in one sense, right? There are many people I know, my friends have done that. Is that the right thing? So if a person is highly advanced in consciousness, I have seen my close friend do that. He's so advanced, he wants to accept the entire world as his family. He wants to serve the entire world. His consciousness is so advanced, so elevated that he wants to live, he wants to use his life in the service of God and in the service of humanity, to spread love within this world. So now these people have accepted not just the duties of his own family and parents, they accepted the service of the community. There should be some people like that. Otherwise, how will the society look up for great examples in this world? So if somebody is very advanced in his consciousness, I mean, you can clearly see those kind of people. It's easy. Even I tried to become like that, but I was not so determined. So when my parents told, we are not going to live without you, I just, succumbed to marriage and I married and I came to US and all. So I was not so determined, but I know some of my friends who are so determined who did that. They're also from IIT. But yeah, so they're advanced in consciousness. They are so determined. And right now also they're flourishing. They're doing so much service. They're doing, spreading the message of Gita. I'm teaching to maybe 20 people. They are teaching to hundreds and hundreds of people. So yeah, they're doing it at a different level. Yeah, if somebody is very advanced in his consciousness and such determination exists in them, yeah, they can do that. And they take the world as their family, and for their service they're ready to sacrifice their own personal duties, and that is allowed in scripture. If somebody, that's how we see in the life of Adi Shankara. He gave up, he took sannyas at the age of 9, Madhvacharya at 11, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at the age of 24 after marriage. Yeah, so different people take at different times, but they are very advanced souls. Even my friend who took, not one friend, actually 4 or 5 of we all stayed together. 15 of us used to live together and practice spiritual life. Out of 15, about 6 or 7 of them were so serious. They all took to brahmacharya, complete brahmacharya life. They're all serving in various places, in various capacities, wonderfully doing. Some of them are preaching in IITs very well. They're doing so well. I feel very proud of them. We all come together, I really feel very proud of them. So yeah, we can see there are great examples. There are great people like that who can do that. And you would be surprised that their family would be arranged somehow or other. God nicely arranges for their family. Don't think that, oh, he's giving up everything and so their family is helpless. When somebody does sacrifice for God in unknown ways, you will be so surprised. There will be perfect arrangement for their family. That is done time and again. That is done time and again. Nobody who had sacrificed their own life for the sake of the world had to become cause of tears for their family. No one. That is the universe reciprocates. Universe perfectly reciprocates for the sacrifices a person does. Right? Is that answering?
Go. Got it, Prabhu. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions, dear friends?
ఒకసారి ఈ 4 అవస్థల గురించి తెలుగులో చెప్తావా?
Yeah, I will explain at the end.
Okay.
So you're asking about the, but I can explain in English for everyone for now, and then in Telugu.
After completion?
Yeah, after end of the class I can explain.
Uh-huh.
So he's asking about the 4 states of consciousness that I talked about. There are 4 states of consciousness. One is Jagriti, or the awareness, the state of awareness. And then Swapna, the state of sleep, or the state of dream, where it's like, the soul, imagine like it is spreading the light. soul like a tube light or a a light bulb. It spreads light. It first spreads the light towards the bulb, the glass bulb around it, and then it also spreads the light outward. Similarly, the soul's consciousness spreads first to the bulb and to the world outside, or to the room outside. So similarly, the consciousness of the soul first spreads to the subtle body and to the physical body and outward, right? That's how you perceive this world. So when you are able to observe the world and perceive this world, that is state of Jagrit. And the Swapna state is when the soul's consciousness just spreads to the subtle body, just like a dim bulb. You dim the bulb so that the light is spread only towards the bulb's surface, right? So only the bulb is lightened up. You would see some light on the bulb. So that's when you dream. In the dream, you feel like you're really acting. Actually, there is a nice story about this. There was a great king, and the king would had a nice dream, and in the dream he becomes a butterfly, and he drinks honey from various flowers. He was enjoying that life as a butterfly, and he wakes up in the morning, and suddenly he becomes in the body of, he was aware of the body of king. Then he would ask his minister, "Oh minister, am I the king who rules this kingdom, or am I the butterfly that drinks the honey? Who am I? When I'm a butterfly, I'm absolutely in the body of a butterfly. I'm completely immersed in the feeling that I am the butterfly, right? So who am I really?" Then the minister says, "You are actually neither this king nor the butterfly. Who are you then? You are the witness for both. You are the soul within this body. This body, the physical body of you, is right now a king. Tomorrow it might become a dog. Who knows? And in the dream, you are as a butterfly. In the subtle body, you are experiencing yourself as a butterfly. So you are witness for both. You are the perceiver of the both experiences. According to your karma, you are a king in your body as a king externally, and in the subtle body you have a dream where you had the karma to experience the life of a butterfly. So you are a butterfly in your dream. Dreams also come because of your karma. So either way, you are neither of these bodies. Actually, you are the witness for both bodies. So that is dream state, when your consciousness is spread only to the subtle body. Now the third level is you lose consciousness even at the subtle body. Means you are neither dreaming nor physically aware. That is shushupti, the deep sleep. The soul's consciousness is not spread anywhere. It is in deep slumber. Everybody gets a 1 hour deep sleep every single day, at least 1 hour. Otherwise, you won't really feel relaxed through the nightly sleep, right? Your body needs relaxation. Unless you have a deep sleep, you can't really relax. And then the final state is Turiya or Samadhi, where the soul's consciousness is riveted or redirected towards super soul. Means the soul is fully aware of super consciousness of the super soul. It redirected. It is in its presence of the super soul. It took shelter of the super soul. So it is, even though the body is living within the world, the soul is, right now we are so much aware of our job, duties, physical, bodily awareness. That is Jagriti consciousness. We live mostly in that. But an advanced soul, even though he is in Jagrita, means he is aware, physically awake, his soul is to turn towards God. So in that state, every experience for him is a spiritual experience. He sees so differently. We see the world, we experience differently. He sees the world, he experiences differently. Just like, take the example of Ramadas. He sees God in everything, everywhere, right? So your eyes are anointed with love of God, and you experience God, or spiritually you experience everything very differently. That comes with sadhana, deep practice of spiritual life. So that's about samadhi. So these are the 4 levels of consciousness. Through the practice of yoga, one gets the state of samadhi. All of us can attain that. It is a gradual process. We can't become all of a sudden. We can't become a yogi. It takes time. Actually, I'm thinking next class we will discuss about the Yuga Dharma, the practice of japa and the importance of it. Is that okay with all of you? Next week, let's discuss that.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Prabhu, Sagar, Prabhu. Yeah. So we will discuss that then. Okay. All of you are okay with that, right? We will
Yes,
give
Prabhu.
class
Yeah.
to one class, understand the importance of practicing yoga and understand the method of practice. That way we will also start incorporating a little bit of that going forward. Okay.
Okay, Prabhu.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
Prabhuji.
So we will end the class here. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me.
Prabhuji, I have a question.
Mhm.
Actually, it is from your previous classes.
Hmm.
So, previous classes, you have mentioned some people will be able to recollect their previous birth, like when they are 4 to 7 years old,
Correct.
like that.
Yeah.
So my question is, why it happens to only some people? Why can't it happen to everybody? Is it because they are too much attached to their previous birth, or is it like a gift?
Yeah. Why some people remember their past lives while most people don't, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the people who remember is because of their strong attachment to certain things in their previous life. For example, one person, he was a pilot, he was a fighter pilot in his previous life. He was so uh, he was so much attached to his duty as a fighter. In his next life, he remembers so many things about how to fly a flight, fighting, and how to kill. As a 3-year-old boy, he would talk about all these things, how to control a fighter flight, fighter, sorry, what do you call, fighter flight. Yeah. So
Okay.
he was, yeah, because of his strong attachment, one remembers. But most people don't remember for good. The reason is, for most people, death is a traumatic experience. You see? And
Okay.
in the trauma, people just forget everything. They lose track of all of that. It becomes inaccessible. The memory becomes so inaccessible. In that next life, it becomes inaccessible completely. So it is, it's all there in your mind. It's just the key is not there. It's like a BitLocker, or it's like a data that is locked with a key, and you don't have. Some people have access to the key, some don't. Most of the people don't. But actually, if you remember your last lives, most of the lives are actually miserable, and gone through a lot of painful experiences. For most people, it's not very enjoyable experience, and so they can't really enjoy this life well, and so it is purposefully designed such that people forget their past lives, and even if they remember for a very short life, for only 2 to 3 years. Look at all the historical records, all the 2000 records. Most of the people forget about their life by 7 years. They don't relate to it as much. Of course, they remember uh, they recollect it at the age of 4, and they almost lose track of all of that. They don't remember any more things after 6 or 7 years. Whatever they remember between 4 and 7, that's what stays as a record. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's for the good actually. If you remember how how you or somebody else died out of cancer in the past life with all the pains, it's such a painful state, and all the people that they cheated, all the all the cheatings that they gone through, uh, because the memory that comes to us is all the mainly the bad experience that we have, right? If you try to remember your past, we rarely remember the good things. We remember mostly the bad things. So it is better that it's God's arrangement that we forget what we are and what um, in the past life. And this is why these hypnotists, they try to remind you your past life, and they make living out of it through hypnotism. They try to take you to your past life.
Okay. Thank you, Professor.
Yeah, because certain anxieties of this life are because of what you are in the past life. So these people try to psychophysically, they take you out of your current state to your past life and try to heal there. But those are all very risky experiments. Yeah, with no real certainties.
Prabhu, I have one question, and again, if it is too late, we can even cover this in the next class. As I was reading through the material, and as you also explained, that Krishna himself told Arjuna that sometimes violence, if it is done in the process of following the dharma, is acceptable.
Correct.
While that made sense, given for him, it was coming from no one else but Krishna himself, in terms of telling Arjuna what is right and what is wrong.
Right.
But sometimes that one line also can be misconstrued very heavily today, where most of the violence also happens, quote unquote, in the name of religion, where people think that they are committing violence in the name of religion, so that is acceptable. So how do you distinguish between what is acceptable violence in the name of religion, what is non-acceptable violence, and people think they're doing it right because they're doing it for religion, for example?
I was talking about jihadis last time, right? Yeah, so these people, they are immersed in bodily concept of life. So first thing is, if we understand Bhagavad Gita properly, understand body, soul, with all these concepts in the background, nobody would, you would get right discrimination about what is right, what is wrong. And all these people who are in the name of religion fighting, they're all doing wrong. Because in the name of religion also, one must be sanctioned. For Arjuna, Krishna is the sanctioner. If people take law into their hands and act accordingly, that is not dharma. That is actually a vicarious, that is misunderstanding of religion. They don't even understand the purpose of religion, right? So these jihadis, what is their goal? They think that by killing anybody who is not following their religion, they go to heavenly planets after this life. They die and they go to heavenly planets. And what do they do there? They call it Jannat, and they go to Jannat and live with 60 or so virgins for eternity. So the goal is still material conception of life. Material conception of life means the conception of or the goal of life is not spiritual. So riveted in misunderstanding of goal and misdirected by false notions of life, false notion of what is right, what is wrong. In the name of religion, people do all these wrong things. Those who understand, even in the Islam, those who really follow the scripture into they appreciate Bhagavad Gita very much, and they there are true followers in every religion, and there are false idiots in every religion. Whether it is Hindu Dharma or Islam, there are people who misunderstand as well as who truly follow. So in the name of religion, who practice violence, they're all the wrong category. Just like, take any profession, take doctors. There will be great doctors who are ready to sacrifice their own life, versus there will be, charlatan cheater people who don't know how to practice, but still they practice and, experiment with the life of people. So it is the duty of the society to see what is right and correct those people, catch them. There are sannyasis, in the name of sannyasi, they cheat. So cheaters exist in every aspect, every profession, or every category of people. So we cannot judge them, in the sense that we try to practice in the best possible way we can, and understand that in this world is a place of all kinds of people, and there will be always people who don't practice and follow things according to what they're supposed to. So yeah, we know that there are people in the name of religion, they are a disgrace to the religion. There are people who are disgrace to the profession of police, to the profession of politicians, but there are also good people. We understand that kind of a situation exists, and so we accept accordingly. We don't worry too much about. We don't whitewash saying anybody who follows religion is all they're all misdirected and they have wrong notions of life. No, that's not true. Those who practice religion properly, or spirituality properly, understand the scripture properly and practice it, they do it right. So so that's how I see this thing. Is that clear, Prabhu?
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. So it's already 6:30. We will end the class here. Thank you all for joining today.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.